Hey, this is, I don't know how many days it is. It's Thursday, I guess, the second week of the lockdown. I like that better than quarantine. I guess it reminds me of the military. Anyway, I've been walking down at the beach, I don't know, last 4 or 5 days in the mornings. And it's my exercise for now. My gym is closed, so I'm not doing any weights, no elliptical, no climbing, obviously. So I've been walking on the beach every morning, and it seems to help. I don't know, negative ions, all that kind of stuff. Um, Walking in the water, I just like it on my feet in the sand, taking my shoes off. It's been pretty consistent as far as the crowds. I've been doing it in the mornings or morning earlier than later, and mostly just people walking their dogs, a few runners. I think it's just what people getting out. I think it's about as safe a place as you can go for social gathering, because you can keep your distance, all that good shit, which I'm not even sure if all that's worth it. I can see one lady over there now doing some kind of like yoga slash fitness. I think mostly it's just to get people outside, and the weather's been really good for the most part. A couple days are kind of cold, windy. Today is it's perfect weather. It's a little cloudy. I guess there's no waves to surf. I don't see any surfers out there. So we're collecting sand dollars, and my feet are sore from walking on the sand, because I am basically a city boy with soft feet. I don't take my shoes off usually unless I'm going to sleep or a shower. So this hard sand is kind of making them a little raw right now, but that's all right. I can live with that. Feels good just to do some other kind of exercise too, in a way. No running, no weights, just walking. It's kind of boring for me, but it's also pretty good too, I think. Just give the body a break from training. And I've been doing a lot of leather work. I still struggle with making the same mistakes. Last night I made a wallet, which I've made, I don't know, 20 of them probably up to this point. And I haven't figured out if it's the thin leather that I'm using for the second layer to make one of the wallets, because it seems like even though I cut everything straight and true, it just seems like it never lines up right. And I kind of have probably a 3 to 4 ounce on the top, and then maybe a 2 ounce on the bottom. And sometimes that softer leather is harder to get square and true, I guess. I'm not sure, but it seems like whenever I try to put it together, it just doesn't fit. And again, I've done 20 of these wallets. Either I don't remember that, or I just seems to be working, and then when I try to glue it all together, it stretches, which is very possible with this really soft leather. But I'm making it work. And then also I forget I need to make the the outside of the wallet a little bit longer so I can keep that little, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, half-inch gap between the two pockets. So when it closes, it folds nice. If that gap is too short, it won't fold properly. They'll be folding on top of each other. That's another thing is when I looked at this wallet last night, when they do fold, they don't meet properly. The gap is enough, but somehow again, the pockets are crooked to each other. And I've done this plenty of times. I keep thinking to myself, I should have learned this by now, or I should have figured it out, something like that. And again, it immediately just triggers my learning disability or my lack of abilities, and it makes me feel like, what are you, stupid? And again, I don't know what it is. If it's lack of preparation, maybe writing things down so I have a step process to go through every time I make a wallet or a project. But myself and writing, we don't go very well together. It's that whole spelling thing. It is so painful for me. I have to look up, seems like every other word, some of the simplest words to write. I either forget them or I can't sound them out or something. And so whenever I think of writing anything, my brain immediately goes into lockdown. Like, you can't do it. You failed at this all your life. Why bother? And the only silver lining to that whole thing is that I have this voice to text on all the new smartphones, and it alleviates some of the frustrations, because I can get about 99% of the words spelled. Sometimes the voice to text doesn't understand exactly what I'm trying to say, and so there's still once in a while where the voice to text will let me down, or I feel like I'm letting myself down. But again, there isn't a day goes by that somewhere in my day, if not once, multiple times, where this learning disability affects me in a negative way. And it doesn't take much to trigger that lockdown in my brain that I failed. What are you, stupid? All that kind of stuff. But I heard this woman talk last night on a video, and she was supposedly an ex-CIA, FBI, I'm not sure exactly, but she worked in Central Intelligence, and she worked for 3 or 4 different presidents, I guess, as security. And the stuff she talked about was stuff I've learned over the years through recovery of going to AA meetings. Also, growing up with the learning disability, you learn to read people really well, because you learn how to divert attention to yourself, or if you think they're going to bring up some kind of subject that you're not comfortable with. For instance, if you know that they're going to ask you about, like a teacher would start going towards the possibility of me having to spell something or read something. And so I learned to divert the energy, change the subject, where you want to call it. I'm still really good at that. If I see or hear a subject that's coming my way that is uncomfortable for me or the other person, sometimes I can divert a subject too, because I see they're uncomfortable. So she talked about all these different things, which I'd say I knew about, 80, 90% of what she was talking about just from my own experiences and going to meetings and listening to people. And she talked about listening. And she said, if you listen, people will talk about themselves. And I've learned that too. That's one of my favorite things, is you just ask somebody something about themselves or something they're interested in. And if you propose it in the right way, they will go on forever. Most people, not all, there's always exceptions to all the rules. Anyway, the woman who was interviewing her was acting like all this was information sent down by God or something. I think the lady who was interviewing her, she didn't seem to me to be the sharpest tool in the shed. She was pretty and effervescent and all that good stuff that it sells. I think people like being around those kind of people just because they're pretty and they got supposedly great energy and all that stuff. But she acted like this stuff was, written in the Bible or something. Anyway, the one thing she did ask the CIA or FBI agent was, what's your superpower? And the lady said, without even thinking, she said failure. And I never heard anybody say that before, but if that's a superpower, I definitely have it. And she talked about failing. She says failing just makes her stronger, work harder. And I get that, but it doesn't work that way for me. Failure just, most of the time, it defeats me. It shuts me down. It makes me recoil. It makes me want to stop and sit and sulk and get angry at myself and the world and why me and all that kind of stuff. Another thing that secret agent lady said was, you always have to take accountability and ask yourself, what's your part? And that's something AA taught me for sure. And I often ask that about life, why is it that I've failed and continually fail? And at this point, I feel like life has been a failure, and what's the point? I have a hard time just getting up and thinking, why should I even bother? I'm just going to fail one more time. And it's been a slow, painful death. That's the way I feel like it right now. And I've felt like that for a long time, but I usually have some kind of diversion. Mostly is exercise, because it's the one thing that so far hasn't failed me. My body's starting to break down a little bit, considering my advanced maturity. I'm having a little problem with one of my knees. My right shoulder acts up if I climb too much. But I'm still in very good physical shape, considering my, advanced maturity. But again, it's the one thing that hasn't let me down, and I don't want to stop. It just, I feel like I succeed too well at it. So I haven't given up on that. Anyway, this the CIA agent, whoever she was, she talked about failure. That was a trip. Of all the people that I've ever heard being interviewed, about 99% of them talk about perseverance and, how if you work hard, you'll succeed. They have a very positive attitude about themselves and what they do. She had a positive attitude too, but I felt like hers was more grassroots. It was more from a blue-collar type mentality, which this woman, I guess she grew up in the Bronx or somewhere like in Queens or the Bronx in Brooklyn or New York City. And to be honest, she wasn't the most elegant, well-spoken speaker I've ever heard. She did sound like she was from the hood. she just didn't have that poise and polish that I expected from somebody with her experience and her background. I would have thought her to be a much more eloquent speaker. She wasn't, in my opinion. She sounded more like I would. So part of me was not willing to believe her as much because she wasn't so well polished. But anyway, she said a lot of things that I can relate to. I believe. So I liked her for that. But again, the fact that she said failure was her superpower, that's kind of an eye-opener. And I mean, if that is a superpower, like I say, I'm in the major leagues. I could be in the Olympics for failure. And it's a hard thing to deal with. And also the fact that I've always been alone. I've had partners, girlfriends in the past, but I believe that the number one ingredient for the failed relationships is my lack of success, or my failure, however you want to look at it. Because I think most women I've experienced, they still want a strong, successful man. They still want somebody that can has the ability to take care of them, even if they don't want you to take care of them. And my experience is they all liked me. They think that I was worthy of their time, but in the long run, I think they thought there's no future with this guy because he's just not successful enough. He's too inconsistent, and they still, I feel like, want somebody that's more consistent and has money, which I've never had either. Again, even if they don't want your money or need your money, they want you to know they want to know you have it and you have the ability to make it and take charge in situations. And so anyway, again, a lot of this failure, in my opinion or belief, is that I haven't had a partner willing to help and support me. They all say they want to, but in reality, it's always about them, in my experience. You know, they'll throw out a little help here and there, but it's more about 80-20, 80 being concentrate on their needs and wants. And so trying to do all this by myself has been utterly frustrating and futile. But somehow or another, there's something in my brain, DNA, whatever you want to call it, that hasn't let me give up. And there's times where I do give up and I'll just lay down and sleep or go for a run. And lately, again, it's been the leather crafting. It keeps my mind busy. I can work on projects all day and not really get much done and be unsatisfied with the work that I've done, but it keeps me busy. And a lot of times, you know, I go out and do my exercise, and that's great, but you know, I can't exercise for 8 hours or anything like that. Whereas leather crafting, I can definitely do that for many. Hey, what's up, buddy? So, anyway, I'm making this video just because I got the time and it's really nice out. And I watched a video yesterday. This guy Justin, I don't know, Makers Leathers. It's one of those leather companies or online companies. And I bought some patterns from him in the past, and I don't think he's the best leather crafter. I've seen out all of them. I don't even think he's the best presentator, but he just made one of those, lockdown videos, working at home, and how he struggles with his little business, and how he starts projects, never finishes them. And anyway, he talked about being more consistent with videos, and I've watched a lot of videos of late, and I watch a lot of comedians. That's one of my favorite things, because laughter is something that has gotten me through my life at this point. And a lot of them talk about how, they struggled and failed for a long time, had to take part-time jobs, all these kind of things. And I've heard them say, sometimes you just got to buckle down and just keep going anyway. And I get that. I can relate to that when it comes to running or sports, because I've been running for, I don't know, for as long as I can remember. And sometimes in my runs, I felt like I can't go any further. Or I've done races where I can't go any faster, all those kind of things. And I just kept going, and I made them. I didn't always make them as fast as I wanted, but so I try to look at life like that. You just got to keep going. It's just that I would like to see some success down the road somewhere, financially, spiritually, or whatever that fucking word is. I hate that word, spiritual. Just success and finance, I guess, so I can not be in fear of money and doom and all that kind of stuff. So, say I'd like to have a house, nice car, things like that. And so anyway, I just I keep plugging away. I don't really have any choice. So, like I say, I was kicked out of my last major relationship because she just got tired of my failure. And so anyway, watching that video yesterday with Justin, he just talked about how he wants to be more consistent with making videos. And I've been talking about, in my head, about making videos of leather and my learning disability, try to combine them and see where it goes, see if I get any traction or action from the interwebs. Just because I know there's got to be people like me out there that struggle like this. And see where it can go, because like a lot of people, I talk about doing stuff all the time and making those videos. I talked in my head for months and months. Every time I'd see a video, I'd say, oh yeah, I could do that, or I should talk about that, or that kind of good stuff. So I'm trying to do it. Or not trying, I'm doing it. Just then the old ego and pride gets in there and says, you're just looking for attention. You're just hoping somebody can save you. All those good shit. But you know what? I got nothing to lose at this point, because at this point all I got is free time, a little bit of leather work, and a consistent failure rate. So got nowhere to go but up, so to speak, because, well, I can go lower, and I've been lower, but I don't like that place, and I'm pretty low as it is, so I got to try to keep thinking about just moving forward and trying to go up from here, because like I say, my spirit, energy, something, whatever you call it, just keeps fighting me to keep moving forward. And like I say, sometimes my forward is not very forward. Sometimes I take a couple steps back and hide behind something and some excuse, some anger or something. And I don't like doing it. So that's where I'm at today. And it's like I say, it's Thursday, walking down the beach. It's about as nice as it can be. There are some surfers out there now. I guess it's low tide, and I don't think there's many waves. Most of them are walking along the beach. Whoa! Just ran into someone's fishing line. I didn't even see it until it caught me by the waist. And I realized it was there. Anyway, I'm just gonna keep moving for now. And I think I'm gonna end this for now because I'm just blabbering, trying to find content, as they say in the YouTube world. But I just see a lot of people seemingly succeeding using YouTube and they're all the public media. So I figure I'm going to give it a try and see where it goes. All right, later.